From the snowy mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, do a little shopping at the SOR Vault, pick up a great book at We Read the Night. You can also join the Space Travelers for $5 a month, and Captain Shirk keeps you up to date on the SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. One of our most popular storytellers is back tonight as one of the queens of the cryptid world. Varla Ventura returns with some great stories of darkness. The full-time author has written about everything magical and supernatural, from mermaids in the seas to casting spells and seances. Varla is a lover of all things odd and unusual, especially if they're truly freaky. Her website, varlaventura.net. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Happy New Year, Varla Ventura. It's been a while.
Oh,
too long.
Well, thank you. Happy 2020 to everyone out there.
I'm glad you're back. I'm very glad
Thank
you're
you.
back.
I'm happy to be back.
I'm a fan. I want your autograph. I'm going to say that right now.
Okay.
I do.
Where do you
I'm not going to lie. Exactly. Well, just somewhere on my studio wall. That's pretty much
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
on a book, studio wall, same thing. That's just the way it goes. How you been? How was your holidays?
Well, thank you. I always appreciate being on your show, and we do a lot of talking before the show too. So we have a good many things in common outside of our love for the paranormal. So my holidays were full and pretty bright and pretty magical. Did a couple of cool sort of creepy holiday shows. Spent a lot of time with family, spent a lot of time just kind of being home. Did a little bit of New Year's spell work, which I always like to do. Light a couple of good fat candles and bring it on. So overall, pretty good. I think. How about you? How's your year been?
My house has been loud. Santa Claus brought a couple of guitars for my little guy and the daughter.
Nice.
And
great.
And I'll tell you, I've never been happier. I have never been happier. I grew up in a house since the time I was 9 years old. So that goes back to like 1982, when I started first listening to like AC/DC and Van Halen. My sisters were into them, and Supertramp and Foreigner, and I remember my sister coming home all excited because the Foreigner 4 album had come out, and I remember asking my dad for a guitar. And then 1983 came when I turned 10, and Def Leppard's Pyromania came out.
Oh yeah,
along with Van Halen's 1984. All right, a year later, and I just about died. And I was like, I want to play guitar, and my parents didn't let me. They didn't let me. So literally 30 years later, I finally get a guitar, and now I have 5 of them.
Yeah, I've seen them actually. I've seen them behind you on the wall of your studio.
and I still don't know how to play. But
do an open tuning, you'll be fine.
Yeah, my little guy is just, and the other audience has heard this before, but my little guy has turned into quite the metalhead. So, example today, imagine how proud I am as a father.
Raising him right.
Okay. Imagine how proud I am as a father today when my son goes, "Dad, what's that song that goes," and he's 6 years old, people. He's 6 years old. He goes, "What's that song that goes, da, 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 da?"
Oh, yeah.
Da, 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 da,
my son loves that song, too.
So I'm like, you want to play? I'm like, you want me to play? Exactly. I'm like, you want me to play Black Sabbath's Iron Man? I didn't even know he knew. He's like, yeah, put that on. So we literally like cranked up Iron Man by Black Sabbath, and I'm almost having tears in my eyes here. Right?
Yeah, right. It's a moment.
It is, because it proves that rock and roll will never die. Rock and roll just will never die, at least in my house. But it's great to have you back, and you kind of shocked me today because a long time ago, I asked you if you would do me the favor and kind of proofread what I had written so far in my autobiography. And lo and behold, you surprised me today and said that you did, because I'm only not even a full chapter in yet.
I thought you were going to say I shocked you because it took me so long to read it. But
no,
yeah.
You're a busy lady.
It's great. There was a lot that I actually regretted not reading it sooner with all of the conversations that we've had. There was a lot that I think anyone who listens to your show, but also, there was a lot kind of in the paranormal spectrum that I expected there to be some of that I would relate to, but just sort of how you came to really both doubt and believe at the same time, kind of, and just the way that it's rather suspenseful in the way that you tell it. And I mean, I don't know if people have heard the story that you give in there about your mother, but that's
yes.
Yeah. There's actually a lot to unpack there, because there's not only the experience that you had, and it's your story to tell, so I don't want to tell it for you.
No, the audience knows. If they've listened long enough, they know. You can explain it.
Okay, so your mom went through this traumatic experience. She had cancer, she had chemotherapy, and she kind of came out of it. And one thing that you were talking about, and I think you're really honest in saying, like, at the time, I was like, come on, Mom, just snap out of it. You're fine now. And it's something that I've become more and more sensitive to as I have gotten older and I have had trauma, and I have had more people in my life that have had illness and trauma. How very much that is a very normal response. Okay, so you're not sick anymore, so it's all good, right? And that's what we tell everyone. We're like, yeah, we're all good. We're good. I'm fine. I'm fine now. I survived it. But there's something beyond the surviving of it. It changes you. I think it changes you on a cellular level, of course, but it also changes you, really changes your outlook on things. And it's not always as simple as, oh, yes, of course, I'm flooded with gratitude that I survived. But that kind of wears off. And you're not only left as a person who just went through this thing that completely occupied you, but you're also left with the impending feeling of your own mortality and death, which is very interesting, because then in your story, as you're describing this experience that you're having, and I think people also have this experience when they're caregivers and they spend a lot of time caring for someone who then passes, and then they don't, like, I don't want to say they don't know what to do with themselves, but there's all this angst and there's all this focus. It's also a similar thing that happens with drug addicts. You're completely focused on this one thing, and then when you get sober, there's this sort of void there. And I think that that's a similarity in trauma. And then, I'm thinking about this, and I'm kind of like going in all these levels of my own experiences while I'm reading this. And then you look into your mother's eyes and you see the angel of death, like you act, and then later you channel it and actually have that experience where you have a conversation with death. And that was like, I wasn't actually expecting that. Out of that, I actually wasn't expecting it to go there, and that you would have that result. So it was very interesting, and it's kind of, then I actually kept opening it and looking at it again and again, thinking, is there more? Like, I want more. Where's the rest? And of course, then I had to ask you, like, it didn't just, I thought, did I accidentally erase some? Because you definitely left me hanging here.
No.
No.
One of these days, we're going to finish chapter 1.
Yeah.
One of these days I'll fish in it.
I know how hard it is. I mean, I write best under a deadline, and I have been deadline-less for the last couple of years. And so all of my books are in bits and pieces, like literally in bits and pieces. I have a chapter here, I have a chapter there, I have 7 different ideas I'm working on, and it's very difficult to focus on one thing unless you've got, fire. And that's actually one of my I know we're going to get into some nice, dark, spooky stuff tonight, but that is one of my resolutions. As you know, I'm a writer, and I write most days. So I've often had the resolution, like, I'm going to write every day, even if it's just one sentence. And, I know myself well enough to know that as soon as I give myself any kind of rule, I'm immediately going to break it. So, okay, let's not just assume you're going to write every day. What's more important is that, at least every other day, once or twice a week, you are seriously working on the completion of something. I have a lot of things in the works. I want to complete them. So my goal is by this time next year, I'll have, based on my list, like 6 different books completed. And that's not possible, but I do think that I can see some things into fruition. And typically for me in the past, I've had most of my books were created from an idea that was then put under the gun, a deadline. And so I knew what I was going to write, and I had done a lot of the research, but I hadn't written it all. And then I had this looming, stress-inducing deadline that really fueled me. So I'm trying to give myself a little more structure and motivation, that the completion of it is not that there's a publisher panting at the end of the other line wanting it, but that there's the creation for the sake of creating.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to just get back to that sort of sacred reason that I got into writing to begin with, and hope that what comes out is really scary. That's actually what I'm hoping. I'm trying to write a novel that will haunt you, and actually trauma completely comes into play with it. So it just seems to be a topic that pops up a lot, and has definitely been on my mind of late. So it was great. I think that I read it when I needed to read it, to be honest with you. Reading what you read really kind of, it got wheels, reading what you wrote got wheels turning. And I can tell you that as a writer, that's a big compliment to you. If you've written something that actually inspires and inspires conversation, inspires other people to write. So, and inspires just a thought, real thought. That's why we read. We read things to kind of see different points of view and different perspectives. So there you go.
I think it's fantastic. I'll try and finish at least the first chapter here within the next few weeks, considering I've been sitting on it forever for some stupid reason. But, lack of time will do that. Lack of time will do that. But I got to ask you, in regards to maybe some of our listeners who are not familiar with your work, how did you get into the cryptid world?
Well, I grew up in a kind of an unconventional household. My mother essentially is a witch. She practiced witchcraft and herbology. She taught me about the tarot and the psychic arts at a very young age. In fact, she's been nagging me to use the I Ching to help me make some important life decisions. And she left me her I Ching manual the last time she was here. And she just consult every time I give her any kind of scenario. Consult the I Ching. Trust me. So I finally did it today. And I did get some clarity on my situation. Although anytime you use any form of divination, there's a lot of room for interpretation. And it's very hard, especially when you read for yourself. But anyway, sidebar that. I just grew up in a kind of an unconventional environment. I was a city kid that was sort of taken out of a city environment and put into the middle of the woods right at, that magical age between 6 and 7 when I was completely fascinated by fairies and fairy tales. And my parents bought this beautiful piece of property with an abandoned 100-year-old apple orchard that you could climb inside and hang out with these spiders and just play by this babbling brook. And there was there once was an old hotel there, so I feel like there was a lot of kind of there was some hauntings in that area, and just really kind of lived in this gold rush ghost town type environment, and in a town full of ghosts. And it was an interesting time to do that with it. As you know, kids don't always do great with moves and transitions and things like that. But for me, that was a really good age because I was fully embracing magic and mystery and fairy world and all of that. So I just grew up loving all of that and attracted, I was a punk rocker. I hung out with all the goths and the punk rockers. I read tarot cards for my friends. I had artists for friends. That's just sort of who I gravitated to at a very young age. And so that it was a world that was open to me. And the world of the occult was something that was very normal for me and very comforting, actually. I know that might sound funny to a lot of people, but I'm sure there are many people who may not practice a religion regularly, but still can take some comfort with, words from the Bible or a moment in church or whatever it is. And for me, that was sort of a metaphysical mashup of philosophies. And as I got older, I was actually able to really appreciate that more and have more in-depth conversations with my mother about these kinds of things. And it's something that I hold very, very dear because there are not that many people. There's a lot of your listeners, of course, and people like you, but there's not... You don't always get to talk about this type of thing with your relatives, let alone someone that you really look up to and admire and know that they know more than you do. And I'm lucky that I have that. So I am a supernaturalist. I believe in all manner of beastly things. And that's kind of how I came to write about and research topics like ghosts and seances and banshees and werewolves and vampires and mermaids and all these kinds of sort of magical cryptid type creatures. I feel very at home with them.
Well, that's good. That's good. And if it's a lifelong passion for you and you have the ability to do that for yourself, which is always great. And tonight, we want to get into the darker stuff and the darker stories that you've collected over the years, because that's a road really we haven't gone down. We got about 5 minutes to go before we go to break. Why do you like the darker side of the cryptid / monster / folklore?
Well, I do think I feel more comfortable with that. There have been maybe one time in my life where, I tried to wear a white shirt or something, and it just didn't feel me. So I think that I'm never satiated with the knowledge that I think I try and have, right? I'm never quite satisfied. And so as a questioning, curious person, there is no greater subject than the subject of sort of the unknown and the unexplained. You'll never get a concrete answer, and you can debate all angles for eons, as people have, as we have. And because of that, the fact that there really is no answer and that my own perspective has changed and shifted, and then I know what I know and I know what I've experienced, but when you talk to other people, they know what they know and they know what they've experienced, and yet it's a little bit different. And I take great comfort in kind of hearing those shared stories. But I also do have, a deep attraction to things that don't look like other things. I like that flip side. I think it feeds a part of my brain and my creativity that, there were times where I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't be like this. Maybe I should be more, I don't know, buttoned up and normal. And every time I've done that, I would just sink into a deep depression until I would just give myself a tarot reading that said, get thee to the nearest psychic parlor and buy yourself a ring, So I'm at the point now where I'm old enough to know that this is where I'd like to be.
Well, I don't blame you. And with that, how has it affected your world, the world around you? Because your world is different than what most people have around them.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because a lot of the friendships that I forged during those early exploration artsy years, I am still very close friends with a lot of those people. And when I go into their homes, I see similar sort of aesthetics and similar books on the shelf, and not always exactly the same. I probably lean more witchy than a lot of my pals, but I do spend time and am attracted to artists and creators. So, I mean, it's really, essentially, I figured out a way after I, waitressed and worked retail for a number of years. I figured out a way to eke a living out. And I actually started working at an occult book publisher as an acquisitions editor. And that's how I got into being able to write and have books published, actually. That was kind of my foray. I was a writer, but I was writing, existential poetry about the streets of San Francisco at midnight or whatever, wasn't really, hadn't really fully developed my voice. And I think that I went for what I knew, but that kind of brought me out of my comfort zone because I didn't feel fully qualified, to be honest, but I knew a lot about the subject matter. And with this book publisher, it was enough to know enough about the subject matter because there were other people that knew a lot more about publishing, but they needed somebody who knew about the occult world. So I got really lucky and figured out, it's pretty low paying, but I realized that there are some, career paths in the world of the occult, I guess, that aren't necessarily just being a professional psychic or things like that. Because I don't feel qualified to do something. I'm not a medium. I don't, I read cards and things like that for my own self and for fun and for guidance, and read them for fun for somebody else. But I'm not going to charge somebody for a reading or anything like that. I'm not, not that good. Not that good.
All right, Varla, you hold on. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Cryptid writer Varla Ventura, her website, varlaventura.net. Can't speak tonight. That's okay. Varla's going to carry this because she's pretty darn awesome. Coming up, we're getting into seances next.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a Space Traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hello everyone. This is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. I want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on the Mighty SOR. We're getting into seances right now. Now, Varla, there's a whole cache of people out there who may not know what a seance is. So could you help us out with that?
So a seance is essentially an attempt to make contact with a spirit from the other side. More specifically, it usually involves a medium who is essentially a conductor both of the ceremony and also a conduit for the spirit to connect. And it's usually used to get a message from the other side. So it really rose to popularity, the idea of a seance, as sort of a regular parlor occurrence, really rose to popularity during the spiritualist movement, which started in about the mid-1800s and really took off after the Civil War, and probably was at its peak, in particular in the United States, at the turn of the 20th century, till about the 20s or 30s. Interestingly, when more technology started becoming a regular part of people's lives, and there was better communication and more efficiency in communication, and kind of a greater understanding of science and the human body, those things all sort of helped. Now the spiritualist movement still exists, and people do continue to conduct seances to this day. But basically, it's like, I think everybody gets that image of people sitting around and holding hands and, is there anybody in this room kind of questions, but it's really a form of channeling and a form of trying to make contact with a spirit or the spirit world. And typically it's for mortals to gain some kind of knowledge. So I guess, and the reason I bring that up is because that's sort of what distinguished the spiritualist movement from another sort of just believing in life after death, or religion, or the pursuit of trying to find answers to who was pulling the strings for this rodeo we're all in. The spiritualist movement specifically, there was a belief that the dead could make contact with us, that they had their kind of own thing going on, and they would come back and they would give us important messages. And again, rose to popularity with the Civil War in the United States because of the mass amount of trauma and the massive amount of loss of life, and the inability to actually identify or bury remains, or really know for months at a time or longer what happened to your loved one. So you had a nation of essentially grieving widows who'd lost their husbands and their sons. And you had a woman in the White House who believed in the psychic arts. So those things kind of all gave rise to seances. But seances themselves have been taking place much longer than that and have many different names. But basically it's a ritual to contact the dead.
And here I thought it had everything to do with Kreskin and the floating tables and floating chairs and everything like that.
Well, that is something that really came about with the spiritualist movement, that sort of parlor. I like to call it the paranormal parlor, the parlor tricks, and that element with, you also had the fabulous Fox sisters they became quite wealthy traveling around the United States and Canada and Europe and really making a good show of their psychic abilities. Now, they happen to be tricksters, but not all people who were doing that were tricksters. In fact, one of them was one of the sisters. Two of the Fox sisters were reputedly drunks, and eventually one of them outed the whole operation. She got $5,000 from a journalist or something like that. Then she tried to rescind it, and by then the reputation had already been spoiled. And a cousin who was in on it also said, yeah, this is all fake. We're faking this. But, seances still take place today. I have been in a couple of sort of informal ones that maybe sort of cross the line more into the idea of just channeling, rather than a formal parlor, sit around a table kind of seance. But I look at seances as a way to really try and make contact. So you don't go into a seance and think like, nah, not gonna, I'm just here for the punch. I mean, people do, of course, there's a lot of skeptics, but you don't go into it thinking, I just want to know, who's going to win the Stanley Cup. You go into it because you're trying to make contact with a spirit specifically. Now, they might know and they might tell you that, but it's less of a get a psychic hit and tell me, and more of a greater lesson that you're trying to get, or some comfort. Often seances, especially in the 1800s and the early 1900s, were used to provide people with comforts. You had a lot of people that believed in the afterlife and spirits and the unknown, or just didn't know, so therefore kind of believed in it. And you also had incredible inventions like the steam train and light, electricity, and telephones. And so these things, suddenly there's a disembodied voice on the other end of this contraption in your house. So there were so many things that were happening in terms of history and technology that almost kind of spurned the psychic belief and the spiritualist movement. Because not only were there other ways to do kind of tricks and things like that, but there also were these other kind of unexplained phenomenon. And you got, a hardscrabble farmer who spent most of his life, working the land. And then there's this, telephone machine that they've got going on. And it changed the idea of what spirit was, I think. And today, when we talk about the spiritualist movement, we do have, the spiritualist movement is essentially what became the New Age and metaphysical movement of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2020, whatever, the 2020s. We need a new name for it.
Yes, we do. The Roaring 20s. Can we use that one again? Because it's 100 years ago. I'll tell you, though.
Sure.
Speaking of the 1920s, I would sure take the dress code of the 1920s, especially for men, over the dress code today. Much more classy.
I do love that. I do love that era. It's just aesthetically a very beautiful era. It was sort of diverging away from the stuffiness of Victorian and Edwardian-ness. Right. And a little loosening of the old corset strings, and a little more lively and freeing and sleeker lines, and it's a little more refined.
Absolutely. I look at pictures of my great-grandfather and my great-great-uncles and everything like that back in the 20s. Man, were they dressed sharp. Oh my goodness. I wish I could pull off that look today.
And, the other thing about seances, and that just relates to that, is that it was probably until, more recently, doing things like that, like seances and seeing a medium or playing sort of psychic parlor games, that it was a little more commonplace. It wasn't thought to be just this really kind of crazy thing that people do. I think, when people started doing a lot of drugs in the 60s and talking about their experiences and, saying that they were making these connections with the multi-universe and all of this stuff, it really kind of, it made people who didn't feel that way sort of poo-poo it and push it aside. But like, for example, my grandparents, they were very interesting because they were both deaf, and my mom and my aunt have told me numerous stories about psychic parlor games that they would play with their deaf friends. Like, they would, especially when my uncle was the oldest, so he was sort of like the first kid, and he was only child for a while there, and they would play cards. It was just totally the thing to do, right? You all got together with a couple other couples and you played cards. And so they'd be playing cards and they would do tricks, like they would put their hands on the table and see if they could make it levitate. They would all think of something, think of an object, and then my grandmother would tell my uncle to go and get the object from the other room without saying what it was or signing what it was. They would all just sort of see if they could all think the same thing. And I always found my grandmother to be incredibly psychic. And I think her psychic abilities were enhanced by the fact that she actually lost one of her main senses because she couldn't hear. And I think she relied and trusted that more. And I did actually learn a lot from her about that without even really realizing it at a young age. And my older sisters will tell, you smoke a cigarette, 7 blocks away, and grandma would, round the corner and knew what you'd been doing. Well, her sense of smell was also probably really enhanced as well. But it's interesting because that's something, that was the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and they're just doing these things. And they weren't going around saying we're psychics and we believe in ghosts, but they had these specific experiences. And later, when my grandmother was much older and actually was diagnosed with dementia, one of the first things that she told us was that there was a little girl that kept climbing in the fireplace. And there was somebody standing in the backyard, and she was starting to see things that no one else could see. And of course, a lot of people in our family thought, oh, she's totally losing it. And I thought she's actually probably getting it. It's really probably what's happening. But she was a little frightened by some of the things. So, I don't know. That's
interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever taken part in a seance? For those of us who haven't, what's it like?
Yeah, well, even as a obviously, like I said, I'm a supernaturalist and a believer. There is a certain amount of discomfort involved because there's a certain amount of show. If somebody is sort of conducting it. Now, I've actually been the conductor or the medium only in that I sort of was the most qualified at that point. I had some idea of what to do, but I've been to a couple of more, formal seances. And it's actually a very peaceful and very interesting experience. I would say the first time I did it, I definitely went into it with a very, very strong aura of skepticism and wasn't really convinced that the person who was doing it was qualified. And I was pretty young too, so I don't think I fully understood. And I also think that when you're a little bit afraid, and you don't want to admit it, but you're a little bit afraid, you can get a bit of an attitude of like, this isn't real. So that one wasn't very there were really no results with that. I've had more results with just sort of doing a little, one-on-one or, small sessions with like a Ouija board. I've had a lot more activity with that. Some good, some scary, some strange, but I personally am a solitary, I'm a more solitary person with my pursuit of magic, and part of that is being a writer. Writers do tend to be sort of solitary people in that way, and I don't always willingly share. I'll tell tons of people on air, right? But I don't always willingly share those sort of sacred rituals because I really kind of treasure them and like to process them. But I do think that there's some benefit to being around other people and seeing what can happen. I was in another one that there seemed to be, it was more of a, like, again, I was just going to say it was a bit more of a serious seance. So it wasn't about like whether or not this thing moved across the table or anything like that. But it was more of a medium kind of telling us what they sort of went into trance and telling us what was transpiring. And it wasn't, I don't remember it being anything specifically related to me. And the way I viewed that is that you just needed a certain number of people. You needed a certain amount of energy to get it elevated enough to actually make that contact. And it was not a friend of mine, but someone that I knew, sort of semi-professionally. So I had a lot of faith in him when he was conducting it. So that one was really actually a very transformative experience. I kind of feel like it's a little bit like you can go, well, I'll speak of something I know very little about, but let's say you go to church and you may not be a regular churchgoer or really have gone to church. I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've really gone to church, but nonetheless, you could sit there and there will be one thing that let's use TED Talks as a better example, right? Like, there's tons of TED Talks or lectures out there, and it might be a topic that you're interested in. It might be a topic maybe you were sent to this lecture for work, for your day job or something, and you're listening. There's a phrase that will stand out to you. There'll be something that you'll get out of it if the person is effective. And I think that seances are a little bit like that. It's almost as if this message, it may not be, yes, your mother loves you from the other side and wants you to know that she's okay. That could be somebody else's message, but there's another message that might come through. And to be honest with you, every seance that I've been in, I don't actually have total recall of what happened. That is an ongoing occurrence. I have sort of a vague feeling. Often I've gotten the habit of, if I've had any kind of experience like that, writing it down right away, because unlike, like a paranormal, maybe you have a ghost sighting or a personal paranormal experience, there's something in that group sort of trance setting that really blurs things for me personally. So I often don't have the kind of recall that I would have if I were in, another kind of meeting. So it's interesting. And I'd be curious, actually, if anybody who's listening has had similar kind of blurred memory, if they participated in a seance or any kind of sort of psychic ritual like that, or ceremony, really, if they've had sort of a blurred memory of what actually took place and who said what. It's like a drunken party, but you're completely sober and you are incredibly aware of everything in the moment. But afterwards, I'm not sure. I kind of get the gist. I don't know. It's, no. It's just,
I got to ask you, what's it like to communicate with the dead through a seance? How real is it? Because for years we saw these fake mediums and psychics trying to pull out the dead to try and, rape people of their money and their hard earnings who are desperate for communication with a loved one. What's it really like? How does it work?
Well, I would say that a responsible seance wouldn't actually promise anything, wouldn't actually promise contact, and wouldn't actually promise that you're going to get a specific message or things like that. That's why I don't really like a lot of those ghost hunting shows, because, there's really a lot of footage of nothing, and it's spliced together to make it seem like it all happened at once. But very few real, true paranormal encounters happen on command. You have to kind of go into ritual. So I think my experience is a little different than probably the average, because I kind of can smell a charlatan a mile away, especially somebody who's trying to purport that they know something about the psychic arts or the occult, because my base knowledge of that, and I am by no means an expert like some people who have really dedicated themselves to it, but my base knowledge, it's like learning a second language when you're a kid. I have a base knowledge of occult that I have sort of a fundamental understanding of what that actually is and what that means. So that being said, I have been to very few because I have trusted that very few were authentic. But generally speaking, just to kind of like set the stage of what actually might happen, you might enter a room, you might all sit in a circle, that's sort of more modern, or you'll sit around a table. The circle part is important. You don't always have to make contact with other people, physical contact, but it does help because it sort of kind of seals that connection between people's energy. I've actually been in a couple different scenarios where, you're holding somebody's hand or what, it's can be a little bit awkward. Honestly, they can be kind of awkward. And then, you have to spend a little bit of time, and I think that the mediums spend a bit of time sort of setting the stage. They're setting the atmosphere. They're also trying to get you out of your headspace of like doubt and skepticism and uptightedness, and sort of, so a good seance will spend some time kind of like prepping the group of people. And I don't think there's a specific number. Other people who have their actually conduct seances might feel that. I've done them in as little as 3 and as many as 10. I've never really been in one larger than that, other than sort of being in an audience of one, but not really participating in it. And then basically the person who is the conduit will, the medium will start by asking a series of questions, usually, because I lean witchy, it's usually someone who is sort of like more respectful and will say, is there any spirit here that wants to make contact? We welcome you into this safe space, right. That type of thing. And another thing is that a responsible seance will actually take some measures to create that atmosphere and then disassemble that atmosphere.
Varla, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Seances, monsters, more coming up in Hour 2 with author Varla Ventura on Spaced Out Radio.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thielen. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to welcome back everyone listening in on our affiliates, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, in Reedsport, Oregon, KDUN AM 1030, KADNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, down in Ridgecrest, California, KZFX 93.7 FM. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Remember, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oh, what is this? Ishior Hodgick? Ishior Hodgick is your password. I don't know if I pronounced that properly, but the clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, do a little shopping at the SOR Vault. You can grab a great book from Reread the Night. Join the Space Travelers for $5 a month. And, of course, Captain Shirk has you all up to date on the SOR Newswire. Varla Ventura comes in every couple of months to talk all things strange, monstrous, cryptid. Her website, varlaventura.net. You can go on our We Read the Night section. We got a couple of her books on there if you want to check them on out. Varla, always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be here.
I love it. I love it. Banshees. Those are dark.
Yeah.
What kind of Banshee stories have you? What kind of Banshee stories have you checked out over the years?
Oh, so many. And actually, I can tell you a more recent one that I discovered. So I did write a book called Banshees, Werewolves, and Vampires and Other Creatures of the Night, and did quite a bit of research with Banshees, just sort of the folklore and the stories behind Banshees. And then after the book came out, I received a number of calls and emails and messages over the years about people who had experiences that seemed to fit the idea of a banshee, but they didn't quite know what to call it. So a banshee, essentially, technically a banshee is Irish, but there are counterparts to banshees or banshee-like spirits all over the world. And it literally translates in from the Gaelic to Banshee, which is of the fairy mound. And it's very interesting because we sometimes get this idea that fairy creatures are these little lovely things that protect our gardens, and we don't realize that there's a long history of darkness in the fairy kingdom, and that also the fairy kingdom is associated with the underworld. And a lot of Celtic mythology, the underworld is the fairy realm, and it's not necessarily a terrible place, but it's a completely different place. It's that flip side. But a banshee is I love banshees because to me they straddle the world of ghosts and fairies, or ghosts and cryptids. They have a very ghost-like, sort of warning ghost type role, but they also have all of this kind of, they're technically classified as being from the fairy mound, like as if this entity just sort of rose up out of the earth and began wailing. Typically, and one of the reasons banshees are the most terrifying is that if you hear a banshee or you see a banshee, it's a warning of death, which usually means not your own, but someone that you love. So it may be someone that's already ill. It may be someone that it's unexpected, but it's typically means somebody is either going to fall incredibly gravely ill or will die. So that's terrifying because, it'd be one thing if you were looking your own death in the face, but to think of something happening to somebody that you love is a very terrifying experience for us all, of course. Banshees can appear like beautiful women. They can appear like innocent old ladies, sort of walking down the lane with a basket, but can transform into something very frightening in a matter of seconds and let out this sort of vicious scream. So the banshee howl is really it's sort of its signature thing. It's just this very mournful cry. In some accounts, banshees are women who have died in childbirth. In other accounts, it's women who died after losing their children or harming their own children. So, and that people have probably heard of La Llorona, which is sort of a Mexican folk tale about a creature that's somewhat similar and is often associated with death and childbirth and mourning. A banshee lets out a mournful cry. It's the Irish keening. It's the way of releasing all of the pain that you're feeling after somebody dies. Only with a banshee, it's appearing before. So there's this warning. So I have heard stories of disembodied heads that looked incredibly terrifying, and you didn't see the body. I've heard stories, more of the accounts that I've heard in modern times from, people that I know who say, well, this happened to me when I was a kid or whatever. It's more of a sound, a very mournful and disturbing sound, as if something were released from the earth and unleashed from the earth. Fewer people have seen them that I know personally than have heard them. And I think it may be, I could be going out on a limb here, but I think it's a little more common to hear a banshee and not as common to see a banshee. I think that's probably true with, for what it's worth, some people just can't see entities. It's just, they don't have that ability. But banshees also were traditionally associated with places. And so this is where we get into the counterparts of banshees, the woman in white in the castle in Italy, and all of these kind of warning, these harbingers, not necessarily bringing death on, but letting you know that death is nigh. That kind of role in stories and folklore and inherited experiences. So banshees were also sort of passed down from generation to generation. And I never really have been convinced that they are adhered to a place as much as they may be adhered to a family that has inherited the ability to see, that sensitivity to be able to see those ghosts, because of course later on a different family might live in this castle. So I was actually in a castle in Ireland this last summer and read an incredibly disturbing banshee story in which this floating sort of old woman spirit appeared 2 or 3 times in this hotel. It was after it had been converted into a hotel, into this hotel room. And the person who saw it after the 3rd appearance finally just asked her what she was doing there. And that's when she sort of let out this incredibly mournful cry and started to sob, which was terrifying. And that was the story. There was no, it was a very recent account that I read in a book that I picked up when I was there. So there was no kind of follow-up of like who died or whatever, but there was a lot of kind of fear associated with the banshee. And they can be not necessarily malevolent, but there have been a few accounts of malevolent banshees, that might just come and completely thrash your place while they're screaming and yelling. Yeah,
That's nice. Sounds like my ex-wife.
Friend you can't have over anymore because they always whine on your carpet.
Oh, damn banshees. Is there a scenario or a story that you recall the people having an experience with this creature?
Yeah, like a specific story. Yeah,
yes.
I could tell you one of my favorites, actually, because let me just flip open the book here, because there's a number of amazing, as I said, I've read a few stories since then and been told a few stories, but actually one of my favorite descriptions of the banshee comes from William Butler Yeats. Oh, and I have a Yeats grave story for you, actually, but I digress. Yeah. So let me turn my light up a little bit here because I'm aged and it's difficult to read in the darkness.
Aged. Nice.
I am an aged woman. So this is an excerpt from, I think it's actually from Fairy and Folk Tales of Ireland, which was originally published as Fairy and Folk Tales of the Peasant People, and is now kind of renamed to be this collection of Irish folklore. And I'm going to apologize to anybody out there who can speak Gaelic because I'll probably butcher the actual Irish here. So the banshee from Ban, a woman, and she, a fairy, is an attendant fairy that follows the old families and none but them and wails before death. Many have seen her as she goes wailing and clapping her hands. The keen or cain, the funeral cry of the peasantry, is said to be, there's the peasantry part, is said to be an imitation of her cry. When more than one banshee is present and they wail and sing in chorus, it is for the death of some holy or great one. An omen that sometimes accompanies the banshee is the coach badar, an immense black coach mounted by a coffin and drawn by headless horses driven by a dullahan. It will go rumbling to your door, and if you open it, according to Croker, T. Crofton Croker, who's a favorite author of mine, a basin of blood will be thrown in your face. These headless phantoms are found elsewhere than in Ireland. In 1807, 2 of the sentries stationed outside St. James Park died of fright. A headless woman, the upper part of her body naked, used to pass at midnight and scale the railings. After a time, the sentries were stationed no longer at the haunted spot. In Norway, the heads of corpses were cut off to make their ghosts feeble. Thus came into existence the Dullahans, perhaps, unless indeed they are descended from that Irish giant who swam across the channel with his head in his teeth. What a lovely, she's such a wonderful writer.
Oh, yes. Romantic. Very romantic. Wow. That really put that into perspective.
Yeah, it does. It really puts it into perspective. And what's interesting is he quotes from T. Crofton Croker, who is an author that I was really familiar with because in, 4th grade or whatever, I read The Soul Cages, which is really a mermaid story. And that is a story that I always remembered because, and that always hovered in my mind. And I actually reference it quite a bit in my mermaid book, and another story that T. Crofton Croker wrote. So he was an Irish writer, kind of around the same time as Yeats, who was writing and researching a lot of the local lore. But he had Yeats was doing a bit more of like recording of people's stories, and Croker was doing fiction. Really, he was doing like a lot of wonderful sort of embellishments, but they were based on stories that he had heard for generations. But there's many kind of creepy descriptions. There's one wonderful one that I read where she appeared as a beautiful woman, and it sounded like someone in distress. And so this person, throws open the cottage door and goes out into the night to see if he can help this, what sounds like a crying woman, only to sort of realize, halfway, a few yards from the comfort of his home, that he is being sort of lured in by the call of the Banshee. And then the Banshee appeared, and it was not a beautiful woman at all, but this very horrific kind of transformed ghostly thing. That the other thing about Banshees is they tend to be really, really quick, which is super freaky, because it's just like, boom, boom, this thing appears, and it just sort of hovers there long enough for you to acknowledge it, and maybe it'll reappear to you, but it just kind of comes and goes, and it's like, oh man, you got bansheed. That's going to be a new term. We're going to coin that for getting bansheed.
Well, what always scared me as a kid was, remember the old Popeye cartoons of the sea hag and the banshee?
Yep, I love that sea hag. Yeah.
She scared the daylights out of me. I don't know why, but I just didn't like her. She scared me.
So you had asked me earlier why I am drawn to the darker things. And I am not lying when I say this. I always loved the villain. I was always deeply attracted to the more gruesome the character was, the more maniacal they were. I don't know if it was this part of me that just, because I'm really a rather nice person, and I was a very sweet little girl. So maybe it was just the contrast with that. But I always was attracted to, the most debaucherous character in the cartoon. I loved Gargamel and the Smurfs. Like, he was my favorite, right? He's this horrible alchemist trying to capture these precious little Smurfs, and I loved him. He was just my favorite. So, when I think of like that sea hag, I instantly have fond, delightful memories of being really excited when the sea hag would come on the scene. Or, Witch Hazel in the Bugs Bunny cartoons, or any of those kind of.
Oh, Witch Hazel was hilarious.
Oh, and she would just leave, and the little wiggle pins from her hair would be falling out.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. I'm still a Pete Puma guy when it comes down to that. Still a Pete Puma guy.
Oh,
that's obscure. That's 3 or 4.
A whole lot of lumps.
A whole lot of lumps. Oh, yes. We had a lot of laughs with that. A lot of laughs with that over the years. In regards to female monsters, cryptids, okay, we think of the sea hag. We think of banshees. Another one that kind of comes to mind would be the Bloody Mary.
So Bloody Mary kind of has a little bit of a banshee tinge to her, I think, because it's, this legend of Bloody Mary, or the idea of this sort of terrifying woman appearing, or sometimes it's a nun or something like that. It has a very banshee-like quality to it. And I do think, so I have a lot of speculations about spirits and whether or not they can travel. And I don't know any answers, but I often like to think that the occasional banshee stowed away in a steamer trunk when a family, immigrated from Ireland to to get off at Ellis Island, and they unpacked the steamer trunk, and then they've unknowingly unleashed their banshee came along for a ride. And so I kind of think sometimes that the stories there's so many, I love finding those similarities in different cultures. But I also, when I look at the traditionally sort of like female or more feminine monsters and creatures, from anything from Greek mythology to, banshees or certain vampires or whatever the stories are, you do definitely have to look at things with a little bit of what do we think about what do we think about women, or what do we think about I don't know, people who are a little different from us. Because as much as I believe in all of these things, I also have read many things that we know today are genetic disorders, or a person that just didn't look as pretty as everyone else, becoming the outcast, and then being, having to have no other job other than becoming the grave digger and things like that. So I do kind of wonder about that. But with Bloody Mary or witches, I mean, number one most iconic female, I don't want to say monster, but certainly a sort of occultish creature. Now, we all know witches are alive and well today, so I'm certainly not implying that they're something of folklore. But the witch craze wasn't founded because people believed that someone was a healer. The witch craze happened because they thought that witches were causing horrible disease and many things that have been blamed on vampires and werewolves and other sort of cryptid creatures throughout the years. I'm waiting actually for, and maybe, you're a little more immersed in the world of Bigfoot than I am, but I'm waiting for Bigfoot to become a scapegoat for some sort of pox or something, to be considered a bad omen in some way, because I feel like when we don't know, we tend to label, right? So
true enough.
And the vampires and the werewolves, but banshees are different. Banshees, I do think of banshees a little differently, or ghosts or ghostly legends, dark ghostly legends. I do think of them in a different category than I think about something like a werewolf or a vampire.
How much of this is conjured up into tulpas, as we've got about a minute left?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because the more you do it, and you well know this, the more you do this, you are both inundated with stories that you doubt, but then you can really see the stories that are real through that. And that has happened to me for so much over the last 15 years or so of doing research and having contact with people and people sharing their stories. And I have a lot of theories about experiences that people go through in their own personal trauma and how they might just, transpose that to be something supernatural when it's actually something more horrifying than they are able to grasp. But at the same time, I have had enough experiences, and I have trusted. I know people have had experiences, and I believe what they're telling me to know that, it's happening. It's real. I don't know what it means or what it means existentially, but it's a real thing, and it definitely exists to put us in our place a little bit. It's just when you think you know something, you'll see a ghost, and you'll realize that you know nothing.
Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Let's continue with the Cryptid Feminine right after this on the mighty SOR. Stay tuned.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly, Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today. Finish off your weekend and kick off your new week with me, Everett Thiemer, right here on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to bring you great guests, a little bit of snark, and plenty of information to think about. But don't worry, there's going to be plenty of woo as well. We are going to hit everything in the paranormal and supernatural, including the odd Psychic Sundays. So tune us in on Sunday, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a Space Traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose beard oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have each and every one of you with us. Reminder that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. Lots of stuff there. Let's just get over to Varla. Let's just get over to it. Varla Ventura comes in every couple of months to talk about weird, strange stories. Tonight, it's the crazy side of the spooky feminine monsters out there. Varla, welcome back.
Thank you. Hey, that would actually be a super cool book.
It totally would. It totally would.
I'm going to pitch that. Hey, publisher, if you're listening, I'm going to pitch that stuff.
Let's pitch it.
Yeah, right, I like that.
We're pitching it.
Pitching.
All right.
Pitched.
All right.
That been pitched.
Damn right. Damn right. Anywho, I want to chat with you. Right before the break, we kind of got into the whole Bloody Mary aspect, where for a lot of people, this is folklore legend that, you know, you say her name 3 times, she appears.
Bloody Mary.
Yeah. Give us the ritual behind that.
Yeah. So that's the idea. You look in the mirror, right? And you say Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary 3 times. And she's supposed to appear to you. And she's supposed to be this, you know, bloody, bleeding-eyed ghost. And I mean, it's interesting because I never really, you know, like movies, and it seemed kind of like, you know, well, this sounds kind of crazy. But I was actually in Victoria, British Columbia, walking by the cemetery one
very haunted
cool evening, and encountered another young woman who was walking into the cemetery. And she said, and we just kind of started chatting, as one does when you're traveling and you meet a fellow kindred spirit in the cemetery. And she was about my age, and I could tell, you know, we had some things in common. We're hanging out in cemeteries. And she was, you know, she knew as much about that cemetery as I knew about my hometown cemetery. And so she took me on this walk, and there's a statue that they call Bloody Mary there that is said to, I don't remember now, but I think it's probably on Halloween night, the eyes bleed. And, you know, it's a beautiful sort of like saintly looking woman whose eyes bleed. So this is a legend that I have actually been very interested in for years, because I feel like it brings the ritual into sort of like the everyday. So the idea that you would repeat something a certain number of times and then she would appear to you, just the idea of any kind of chant. Now, I don't think 3 times is enough, although there's a lot of mysticism around the number 3 and the power of 3 and that sort of Trinity, stolen by the Catholics to be the Holy Trinity. But, you know, you got the Mother, the Maiden, the Crone. You have that that tri idea. But I think that there is a lot of evidence to show that chanting can create a very high vibrational atmosphere that can invoke a connection with a greater spirit. So it stands to reason if you say it enough, perhaps you could make contact with this Bloody Mary. But I just don't think, you know, 3 13-year-old girls in a bathroom saying it 3 times. As much as we wanted it to happen, it didn't happen. It's also kind of a passage. So that's something interesting, too, when we're talking about scary stories and folklore and these kind of retold tales that we inherit. While many of them can be based in somebody's experience, there's a certain level of that cautionary tale in there. And also like many good stories, there's a hero that's put to test, or a heroine who's put to test, right? So there's something about seeing if you will actually cross that line and say, yes, I do believe, and I'm going to say this. But, you know, it's interesting because I've had a couple of creepy things happen when I've been on an interview and been talking about things, not necessarily about Bloody Mary specifically, but I was in my old haunted apartment in San Francisco and was on a radio show and was talking about some things that had happened fairly recently that I had noticed that there seemed to be more paranormal activity around me. And I was just kind of lightly skirting the subject. I wasn't getting into a great deal of detail, and it wasn't a paranormal show. It was just like a regular midday radio show. So I wasn't going into great depth. And I was on commercial break, and something started tapping my wall. And I thought, oh, that has just got to be coincidence. That obviously is an old pipe. And then I sort of dawned on me that it wasn't in a part of the building that had pipes. It was an interior wall, and it was pretty distinct. And it stopped while I was talking. It was gone. And when I stopped talking, it started again. And to me, I took that as like, quit acting like you don't know we're here. Just tell them we're here. So it was just, I don't know. So there's that idea of belief and saying something and looking into the mirror and saying, Bloody Mary 3 times. Is that enough to invoke something? Maybe, if it's already there. I don't know. It's an ongoing debate in my mind.
We need to find some voluntary teenagers, because they're always silly enough to do this stuff. We need to just find them, use them as sacrificial lambs, and give it a try. That's what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what I think.
Yeah, or maybe some 30-year-old men too. That might work. Let's see if we can get through it.
Yeah, 30-year-old men, they're pretty stupid too.
Yeah,
I was one once, so I could say that. Exactly.
I was married to one.
Oh, yes. Yes, weren't we all? But, oh, my goodness. All right. I want to move on. Yes, we digress here.
Path that we meant to. Let's turn ourselves around.
Yes. Speaking of exes, I want to talk about succubuses next.
Oh,
because, well, let's just say that, some of us have been down the paths of hell here, and sometimes we were lucky enough to find the cure, let's just say. So, succubuses, they're kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack with the idea of the succubus, but I remember first kind of reading about succubus. I was incredibly young. I was probably 9 or 10, and I had a mole under my armpit that was, kind of a long, to be completely gross, it was like, kind of a long dangling mole. And I don't know if it was my mom or my sister said something sort of offhandedly like, oh, that's where the devil will nurse or something like that. And they were completely joking, but it stuck in my mind because I couldn't quite process that. So, of course, there was no Googling back then. So I went immediately to the bookshelf and tried to find information about what that meant. And eventually went to, it wasn't the school library, I think it was the public library, and found one of those great books of, I don't know, I probably still have the book, the Book of Beasts or the Book of Demons or something like that, and found Succubus and started reading about the Succubus. And essentially it's a female demon, and the whole idea is that they're trying to entice men to darkness, and sometimes also women. Later, when I was researching my mermaid book, there were some similarities there that I couldn't overlook, just in the sort of seduction and luring and drowning and ruination that they could bring. So I don't know how I segued from having a witch's teat to mermaids, but the succubus are there in between. So basically a succubus can be male, but is usually female and is a demon that preys upon your well-being.
Yeah, they're not very happy. Not very happy, I don't know why. I really don't know why. But in regards to it, I mean, the male equivalent would be the incubus.
Right.
And it's supposed to, like with the succubus, if I get this correctly, the idea behind it is to literally drain somebody of their energy, of everything that they stand for. Would this be the correct definition?
I think so, and I think that it's generally implied that that sex is used to do that. Now, I got something to say about this. I think succubus get a bad rap, and I think that there's a certain amount of the male-dominated view of how we view female power and sexuality that has clouded the sort of reputation of the succubus. In fact, if you look in art and imagery of succubus, you will find this semi-pornographic image of a woman with her usually wings and looking kind of demonic, but with her mouth just so. So I think that there's a little bit of exaggeration here, but of course we're talking about times when it was believed that if a man gave up his semen, he lost all of his power, and that that was used in ritual magic only. So there's a lot to unpack with the succubus. And I don't know. That's a road that I tend to look at things, and the more I read in folklore, the more I look at things with a little bit of a different lens than I might have 10 or 15 years ago, or certainly that I did as a young kid, and what I thought it was. And I definitely see a lot of personification of things that men in particular fear about women in a subservient way that also dominates them. I don't know. That's my not very metaphysical view of succubus.
Wow.
Not to ruin it for you, but
I didn't think you would go down the divine feminine road. The divine feminine road, just absolutely lambasting men everywhere. No, but seriously, I have to tell you a story, okay? And I never really believed in this, but I knew a gentleman who got together with a beautiful woman, and it was a whirlwind type romance, and literally within 2 years, he had ruined his credit. He had lost his house, had lost everything. His job stayed the same. He was still making the same money, same everything going the same. And all of a sudden, everything just started disappearing out of his life. And she liked to call herself a witch, okay, a practicing witch. And she, to this day, we all think that was a succubus. Not because we're saying it out because she wasn't a nice person or anything, but
but because so much loss and ruin was associated with her presence.
Loss and ruin, absolutely. And the funny part about it is, a good friend of mine who knows her as well, who's an ET contactee. Then that's how they met. She even claims that she was a succubus.
I mean, in my experience, I have had more difficulty with what I would, and maybe it's just a different name for the same type of thing, but I've had more experience with vampires, living, psychic, draining, energy vampires, in a very similar fashion. And the key thing that there are a lot of responsible vampires out there, people who practice the art of vampirism and really do admittedly draw on other people's energy and get donors to donate energy to them. But I have had numerous encounters with people who have left me feeling drained. If I had spent more time with them, I might have felt that they cursed me, although I'm not going to brag or anything, but, I'm pretty immune to curses. So I got some tricks up my sleeve when it comes to that. But there is a lot of connection between the idea of like a vampire and a vampire taking and the succubus, because the succubus drains your power, and that's the same idea with a vampire. So I think there's a lot of correlation with those sort of creatures. I mean, she might have just straight up cursed him, which could be the equivalent.
Okay, so for those of us who may not be able to draw the difference between a curse and, say, somebody who is a succubus, or you know what, we'll make it politically correct, or even an incubus.
Or an incubus. Okay. Now, I've had more problems on the incubi level than the succubi level. Certainly,
yeah.
But well, get some salt and a big, fat, beautiful necklace with a nice radiant crystal or something, and I just hope for the best. Make better choices, people.
Yes. Stop with the succubi already. We got to grow up here.
Obvious.
My goodness. Just all the rage these days, them damn succubi. Right?
Well, I find it interesting because the other connection, I think, with lore and the idea of there's a big element of blame in supernatural literature. There's a big element of blame and a place, it's no surprise that the term scapegoat, it sort of stems from trying to make something negative out of a pagan ritual, which was, sort of worshiping the horned god and the goat foot god, which was really a means of paying thanks to the animal that, sustained you in your life. So there's always this kind of element of, and I'm completely guilty of it. And I'm certainly not saying, you have to have it in order to think of something as being counter to you or being responsible for something. There's an element of blame in a lot of the supernatural. And, it's the mermaids who cause shipwrecks. It's the Banshees who bring on death. It's the Succubus who bring, bankruptcy. The vampires who, leave you to be just a shell of who you once were. There's the witches who cause the pox. There's always like this element of blame. And I think it's interesting because we play with that a bit in our daily lives of our own personal responsibility. Really, if those Romans had just taken a bit more personal responsibility, a lot fewer witches would have been persecuted. Right.
Always blame the Romans. Always, it's like the Ukrainians. We blame Russia for everything.
Yeah, well, there's all that domination stuff, like the taking over and crushing of the country. So
it's the persecution. It doesn't go very far. People sometimes have long memories about that. All right. I want to get to some questions from our audience here, if you don't mind. Let's start off on Twitter with Andrew. And we've got about 3 minutes here before we got to go to break. Andrew is asking, Varla, these entities seem very close to the concept of an archetype. Could these experiences be deep universal human truths or energies which activate and guide the human spirit to full potential?
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's an overarching archetype with many of these entities. And I do think that these tales and these stories exist to enlighten, to frighten, to kind of change our point of view. But that being said, I don't want to dismiss the, aeons of stories of actual encounters. And I've learned enough to know that as soon as I think of it on a supernatural plane, that like, as I said, going to the break, that's the moment in which you see the ghost. However, I do think people have these experiences because they need to have them. I've always thought that. I think that a lot about the things that I read about the fairy kingdom and the roles that these fairies would play in literature, in daily life. And so there's an incredibly human experience in the supernatural. So, yeah, I think that's the sort of meta. Your view, Andrew, is definitely the sort of meta next level, like going out into the universe level of some of these creatures that we have. And that's, I think Dave asked at the beginning of the show, like why even explore these things? And it's because there is really no end. There is no answer. We don't know. And it's so interesting to hear other people's point of view and to look at folklore. And, there's certain things in the record that we can read and we can interpret, but it's such a malleable field, which I love.
As you should. As you should.
As should you.
All right. We got about 1 minute here. I'm going to sneak in this question from John on Twitter, and if we got to carry it over, we can. He's asking if you've ever heard about a blue lady ghost. He says, my mother as a child had a nightmare about a long-haired blonde banshee in a blue dress killing people. When she woke up, the ghost was above her with a knife. My mom screamed. The ghost took off. Have you ever heard about that?
I've not heard that specific. No, I've never heard that story, but if it was a banshee, like I've definitely heard of people having creepy things hovering over them. I don't know if that would be a banshee because banshees don't typically like threaten in that way. They're really more of like warning, or I guess that could be perceived as a really, really, like that's a mafioso style banshee right there. It was like you're showing up with the knife and everything.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's pretty extreme and pretty terrifying. And I think that would be enough to scare even me. I don't scare that easily.
Well, I think Marty's the strongest. Marty on Twitter is the strongest. He says, as we go to break, I'm married to a natural redhead, so I know all about dealing with strong women. And on that note, we got Varla Ventura on for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be back with more in hour number 3 right after this.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at Kajans.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night.
This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thielen. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
We're underway in the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. How y'all doing out there? Thank you for listening in, especially if you're tuned in on KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, in Dangerfield, Texas, KDNF AM 1560, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. On the digital side, great to have everyone from Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio tuning on in. Don't forget, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ishio Horhogic? I don't know. Ishior Hogic. I don't know. I don't even know what the hell this is. But the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, do a little shopping in the SOR Vault. Grab a great book from We Read the Night. Join the Space Travelers for $5 a month, and Captain Shirk has the Newswire updated daily. For the final time tonight, we introduce Varla Ventura. Her website, varlaventura.net, one of the best cryptid folklore legend writers out there. At least that's my belief, and by the response from many of you, I think you agree with that. Varla, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for
You're welcome.
So much.
Oh, anytime. In the Space Travelers Club, Hadarok is asking, he says, I'm always afraid the dead I knew will give me a message that they saw me naked or being intimate with my wife. If they are out there sometimes, then how do we know they are not there at those other times as well?
A question that has weighed heavily on my mind since I was about 13. So I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. I mean, how do we know? They only appear at certain times when we're open. I mean, who knows? I've been haunted by the idea that, my grandfather, because I could actually see what I was up to for years. So that's a more haunting thought than anything, really.
Do you think they have respect on the other side for intimate moments? Like, say you're having a shower, or you're for women or even some men, shaving your legs or something along those lines. Do you think there is that respect?
I mean, we would hope so. But as we've seen in many situations, there's not a lot of respect for the dead. I mean, I don't know. I guess it just kind of depends on, that's a pretty personal thing. Depending on how, to me, it just kind of comes down to how you, I've had a few situations where I've just thought, okay, I don't really feel, I don't know. Let's just say I've stopped doing, actually, I had a specific story where I was going at it with an old boyfriend, and he wasn't old. This was a long time ago, just to be clear. And this is my really only true UFO experience. But we were parked up on top of a hill. I'm pretty sure my parents aren't listening now. So we had taken their car and we're parked up on top of this hill, and it was this beautiful area where you could just see for miles and miles. And I was like 17 or 18 or something like that. Yeah, I was 18. That's it. And you could just see out over this canyon. There's no light pollution out there, and there certainly wasn't then. And we're just, we're on the hood of the car and we're doing our, teenage stuff. And we see this light, and it's really like a pretty bright light. And it kind of, it seems like it's the next, again, we're kind of on the top of this hill, and there's a canyon that goes down on either side, and we're facing toward one direction, and we see this light, and we both kind of in the corner of our eyes. So you see that, and so finally we just kind of stopped, and I said, "Do you see that?" And he said, "Yeah, I noticed that. It's kind of making me feel weird." So we're just like, okay, it must be a plane or a helicopter or something like that. There's no noise, and it's this pretty big canyon area, so it's possible the noise wouldn't have gotten to us yet. So we're just kind of like, okay, well, let's just chill here for a second and just, take a breath. And we're looking out, and then the weird thing was once we really noticed it, then it's almost like it really noticed that we noticed it, and it started to move, and it moved toward us, and it was moving toward us in a pretty direct fashion. Now, I just, this was in the early 90s, right? So this wasn't there weren't a lot of, could have been a drone, I guess, but this is a very rural area in Northern California, and there weren't a lot of people with, there were no cell phones. Nobody had a computer. So we don't know what this thing is, but we're noticing this light, and it's kind of getting closer. And then it, we're just thinking this has got to be like a helicopter or something like that. And then all of a sudden he just looks at me and he says, "Let's get the here." And we zip down the road, and we get out of there, and that's all it was. That's all it remained until years later, when I actually saw some video footage that somebody from the same area shared from a few years later after this had happened to us. And what they saw was incredibly similar, and they couldn't explain it either. So I don't know how we got quite to that place from the idea of the dead there watching us, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, but it was a good story nonetheless. It was a good story nonetheless, and Barry White playing on the stereo. You know how it goes.
Probably more like Susie and the Banshees or something, but yeah.
Oh, could be. Anyhow, moving on here.
Moving on. Let's hope the dead don't see us in our darkest hours. Yeah.
Yes. That is kind of creepy if you think about it.
That's the whole shower scene in the Hitchcock movie, right?
Yes.
The idea that you're at your most vulnerable, and then something could could see you or attack you. That's what makes it extra scary.
Absolutely. Continuing on with the theme of, well, let me see if there's more questions first. Let's see.
And one of the questions was like, Dave, do you even screen your people?
Yes. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Bad, Varla. That's okay. That's okay. Nobody noticed. What about sirens? The dangers of sirens.
Sirens are super interesting because they are somewhat related to succubus as well, and also related to mermaids. And it's a very similar idea that there's a beautiful sounding creature that can kind of lure you into to your death. So a lot of times we see sirens, a lot of times we associate sirens and mermaids in the same category, and occasionally even use those terms interchangeably in sort of like, modern nomenclature, whatever. But typically sirens are winged, and that's where some people think that the idea of a siren sort of evolved from a succubus, or that they're connected in a lot of ways. The sirens aren't quite as damaging directly. So I think the idea of a succubus is that it really preys on your own body and personal fluids and such, whereas a siren is more of a sound, a lure, a bit of a trickster, a way of kind of putting you in peril and harm without directly causing that harm themselves, if that makes sense.
So when do they come out? Do they come out during dark times? Do they have to be, brought in by ritual or seance?
No, I think they like storms. A lot of stories that involve sirens involve storms, and the other reason that sirens are often interchanged with mermaids is that sirens typically do appear near water, near bodies of water, and near the sea, but they're not like mermaids. They aren't necessarily they don't live in the water. They usually appear on rocks and things like that. And the sirens of Greek mythology are the ones that would kind of just, you're really close. Your passage is right over here. This beautiful song that kind of puts people in trance, sailors in trance, and then the next thing you know, they've run aground. And these are very similar stories that we hear about mermaids, that mermaids lure sailors too close to the rocks or lure passerbys into the water to rescue them and then drown them. Although, some mermaids have been known to save people and to guide people to safety. So not all mermaids are out there to drown you. And I haven't heard too many really positive stories about sirens. They're usually considered pretty menacing, but overall it's like half woman, half bird like creature with a beautiful voice that is set to kind of sing you to death.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think I've met a couple of them in my life.
It's like your sister when she's in choir and she just keeps singing all of the songs over and over again.
Oh, yes. Yes. That way, when I think about that, I mean, I just look at all the times where, you think you hear things, like you're in the middle of the forest and you just hear things that just don't sound natural to the habitat. How many times do we hear that happening? Could they be in the forest too?
I've never heard of a forest siren, but I've definitely heard of sort of equivalent creatures that have that ability to distract or moan, or one of the more recent sort of banshee-like stories that I've been told, and actually I included in my last book, is a story about a friend of mine who heard this insane thing that, to this day, we're not sure exactly what it was. We don't know if it was something more Bigfooty or Wendigo-like, or if it was something in the Banshee realm, but it was this very deep moaning and mournful kind of cry. So that was in the middle of the woods. I don't think sirens specifically and like mythology are associated with the woods, but I do think there are sort of equivalent Lurie type, Lurie, is that a word? Lurie type creatures that can distract you or make sounds and kind of pull you into the cave or the river or make you think it's a good idea. A lot of these things also prey upon these moments of total weakness that humans have, right? So in one version, the person is, has been wandering for days and days. Now we know that you're wandering for days and days. You're dehydrated. You're probably hallucinating. You've probably had some bad water from a stream at this point because it was your only option. Who knows what you ate off that bush back there? So there's a lot of things that are at play that you would then feel that there's a entity pulling you down into the water. So, there's always kind of, it's interesting to research a little the provenance and the, I guess, like the context of the story and how the story is being told and who's telling it and who's actually retelling it. Because a lot of the best stories are the ones that people tell you firsthand, and then when someone tries to recount it, they put their own spin on it. And that's unfortunately a lot of what we have in the more modern folkloric record was recorded at a time when people who stories they were couldn't read or write in English. And so instead these stories were recorded by people with a certain outlook and a certain agenda, not saying it was all inherently bad or it was all bad intentions, but there's a particular kind of, there's an ethnocentricity that's happening there, right? There's a certain view or a spin on this folklore that eventually, goes through that rock tumbler and ends up sort of a semblance of what it once was.
Hadaraka is asking in the Space Travelers Club, are lights associated with these beings, ghosts, or spirits? If you see lights in your home, what does that mean? Like red lights or dots moving around, moving against a wall?
Yeah, super lights are definitely associated with ghosts a lot, and then some certain fairy entities. But there's a lot of people who talk about orbs and sort of places of light, and that's usually associated with it's usually associated with ghosts, really. I mean, that's probably most likely, I would say. I actually just recently about 3 months ago, I was in Baltimore, and I had gone to like the Edgar Allan Poe grave, done all this cool stuff. And I was actually just trying to take a picture of the street that I was staying on because it just looked so cool. And I didn't realize it at the time. I just, took 3 or 4 pictures. And later when I went back and looked at my phone, there's this light, this sort of orby thing that's moving around. I cannot figure out what it was. And I've looked at it multiple times and I don't know what it is. And that's happened to me before where I've seen a light or it showed up later. For a lot of people, it shows up later on cameras and stuff. And that can be a convenient way of saying that it's evidence when maybe it's just a trick of the light. But when you see them in your own home, or like I had that encounter where I saw something going on with lights, I feel like that's, maybe we're not getting like the full picture of what it is, but not everybody sees and perceives the supernatural in the same way. Some people can sense things. Some people can smell things. Some people can actually see physical manifestations. It's different for everyone. Not everybody has the same set of abilities. Or, maybe you can do all of those things, or maybe each time it's a little bit different. So there's no one person that always can see ghosts. Sometimes maybe they just pick up on something or they hear something. Or my most skeptical friends are the ones who've actually had the most physical manifestations, more physical than even some of the things I've seen, like very, very clear right in front of them, something in the room. So there's just a lot of different variants, and as many different variants in perception as, as different human brains are. And not everybody has the same kind of psychic ability. And I think we do. I think we think, oh, well, we're just going to see a ghost. Well, I've never seen a ghost. But then when people start telling their stories, they have had experiences that are unexplainable or difficult to explain away. And it could be that there was a tap on your shoulder. There could be something very physical. I've had a lot of physical things that weren't necessarily visual. They were physical things, pressing down on the bed, things pressing down on me, things, tapping my head and stuff like that, but not being able to, I didn't see anything doing it. I could just feel it. So I don't know. A psychic taught me that a long time ago, that there's a lot of different kinds of levels of perception, clairsentient, clairaudient, all of those kind of things.
I think we got time for one more question from the Space Travelers, and this is Hot Rock again. Do you believe ghosts have particular colors? Like,
I'm not sure. Don't think all ghosts are one color. I don't think ghosts are all like we see in the haunted house in Disneyland, that they're, monochrome. Yeah, I think that ghosts certainly have colors, but I have heard from people after an investigation. I'm not a paranormal investigator. I'll just say that right now. I've gone on several investigations. I've had a lot of experiences, but I don't conduct paranormal investigations. And I have been told that different colors of orbs and things like that actually have different, for example, pink is a much stronger entity than green. Green is much more common to see. I've been told that, and I've seen some, read some stories about that. So maybe ghosts have specific colors that they're associated with. Yeah, maybe. I don't really know.
I don't know either. I don't know. We got under 2 minutes left with you tonight. Tell our audience what you're up to these days.
Well, I'll make a little plug. I just had my website completely redesigned by Hillbilly. And thank you, Hillbilly. And it looks really good. So I'm very excited about that. And it's just much easier. It's just brought into the modern age, really. Needed it. My website was well over 15 years old, and it was very DIY, so it looks very professional. So if you want to check it out, it's varlaventura.net. Same as in all of my books, same URL, but totally different look. And I've got a few appearances here and there. I keep everything up on that. And then I think I had kind of mentioned to you before the show started that I've got a number of book projects in the works, and I hope to have something to show for that in the next year or so. There's a number of them in the works, so hopefully one of them will actually physically manifest and won't just be a ghost. But I did also tell you that one of my big goals this year is to write for the love of writing, and not necessarily because I have a deadline or a contract with the publisher. Something, a lot of the writing that I've done over the last 10 years has been under the gun, so to speak. And so I'm really trying to kind of just revisit the reason that I love to write to begin with, and hopefully tap into something really exciting in that process. So.
Well, I don't blame you for that.
To get under the gun. I'm open to that as well.
Varla, always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. I've got you booked for March 5th, just so you know.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
if that works for you.
I'll have to look. But yeah. I'm sure we could do something around that time.
Perfect. We like having you on Thursday nights. Varla Ventura, our website once again.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Absolutely. Her website, varlaventura.net. Coming up next, we got the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today. We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thiener. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. Reminder, if you've missed most of this show or others, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, has a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, do a little shopping at the SOR Vault, grab a great book from We Read the Night. You can join the Space Travelers for $5 a month, and Captain Shirk has you up to date on the SOR Newswire. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the recyclable. So this is kind of cool. Athletes competing at the 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games in Tokyo, Japan, will be sleeping on bed frames made from recyclable cardboard, with mattresses formed from polyethylene materials that will be reused for plastic products after the games. The environmentally conscious sleeping arrangements were put on display for the media for the first time on Thursday at a mock apartment in the Tokyo 2020 headquarters. In all, 18,000 beds will be required at the village nestled in Tokyo Bay during the Olympics that begin the 24th of July. Only 8,000 will be needed for the Paralympics. At 2.10 meters long, the bed should be suitable for all but the very tallest athletes, and the manufacturer, Airweave, is confident they can bear a weight of around 200 kilograms, which is more than any athletes weighed at the 2016 Games in Rio. Construction of some of the communal areas of the Olympic Village, like the main dining hall and the Village Plaza, is still underway. After the Games, its apartment units will be sold off privately, with prices starting for just over a little 50 million yen, or about 370,000 American. Yeah, the organizers are making a concerted effort to reduce carbon emissions generated by the games, according to Junichi Fujino, an environmental researcher on the city's task force. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Right on. Moving on, shall we? Let's. Oh, I'm going to get frustrated with this one. I can just feel it building. Feel it. I better take a drink of water before I even do this. Thanks, Captain Shirk. Okay. Cuttlefish have the ability to watch 3D movies and react to them much like they would if they saw the real thing out in the ocean. And when it comes to depth perception, they're incredibly proficient. Yes, apparently these are findings from another well-used set of government grants and published in the journal Science Advances. Trevor Wardell, wasting money as an assistant professor of ecology, evolution, and behavior at the University of Minnesota, wasted the money because he led the paper as the author. Yeah. His team superglued Velcro to the skin of the cuttlefish. Isn't that nice? Then they fastened 3D glasses with one red and one blue filtered lens to the Velcro on the skin. On a screen at the front of the cuttlefish tank, the researchers played video of shrimp, one of the species' favorite tasty snacks. It took a lot of coaxing of the cuttlefish to make them wear the glasses. You glued it on the head, you jerk. Then they want to play with it. No, they're probably trying to get it off. But the little critters behaved. Something magical apparently happened. Ooh, doo, 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 doo. The cuttlefish extended their tentacles and attacked the on-screen shrimp the same way they would if they saw their prey in the wild. Guess what? We got videos all over YouTube of cats doing that to mice, frogs doing that to crickets, and yet you glued Velcro to a cuttlefish's head. You moron. To execute the study, of course, because we got to get into this study because we don't want to waste any money here on this grant, Wardell's team from the University of Minnesota took a trip over the summer. Oh, great. Yeah, they traveled to Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. There, they tested how 11 different European cuttlefish, or Sepia officinalis, responded to the films while in the tank. Cuttlefish have camera-type eyes, which have a cornea, lens, iris, and retina. They have the ability to use stereopsis, which means they can discern distances because their brains can interpret their differences between signals coming from both eyes. Okay? When the researchers ran the experiment with the cuttlefish wearing the glasses, they noticed the fish would adjust their position relative to the screen. Cuttlefish could do depth perception better than we can. You know what? They got a picture of the tank here on this story. All right? This is dumb. This is absolutely dumb. Now, apparently, this goes a little further, okay? So, apparently they wanted to even try the idea of Velcroing 3D glasses on mollusks. Wardell has been studying the insect vision for about 15 years, and since 2012, he's been looking into a class of mollusks, of which cuttlefish are a part of. His lab has discovered, this guy just needs to get money taken away from him. All right? This isn't a personal crusade to make 3D glasses on every cuttlefish, praying mantis, all right, slug, whatever it is. Somebody get this guy away from government grant papers or any type of grant papers. He's wasting money. Captain, this got to go in the bank that we're going to read at the end of the year. This guy's pissed me off. All right, stop wasting money. It's terrible. A wallet lost by an Ohio sheriff during a hike 12 years ago was found and returned by a pair of siblings who went wandering in the woods. The Butler County Sheriff's Office says on their Facebook page that a local man told officials that his kids, 7 and 9, had gone into the woods in their neighborhood for a half hour, survived the wilderness challenge. He said the kids, Brooke and Drew, came home with a wallet that contained Sheriff Richard K. Jones' old badge, ID, and other documents. Jones said he lost the wallet during a hike in the same area about 12 to 15 years earlier. Good kids. Good to get that stuff back. I think his driver's license is probably expired, though. An indigenous man has told how he and his 12-year-old granddaughter were handcuffed as they tried to open a bank account in Vancouver, British Columbia. Maxwell Johnson told the BBC, and a Bank of Montreal employee questioned the identification he and a girl provided for the account. The employee left to verify the IDs, he said, and police arrived soon after, detaining him and his granddaughter. Vancouver police say the incident is extremely regrettable. The Bank of Montreal said in a statement they unequivocally apologize. Recently, an incident occurred that does not reflect us at our best. We deeply regret this. Oh, you are such a crappy bank. That's why I don't use you. All right. Mr. Johnson, who already has an account with BMO, says that he wanted to open another one for his granddaughter. That's a great grandparent move. As first reported by Canadian media, Mr. Johnson went with his granddaughter to the BMO in Vancouver on December 20th. He provided the bank employee with both of their government-issued Indian status cards, proof that a person is registered under the Canada Indian Act. Mr. Johnson, who says he has full custody of his granddaughter, is a member of the Heiltsuk tribe, a nation. The BMO employee told Mr. Johnson there were some discrepancies with the card. She says a number didn't add up, which he didn't understand because his number hasn't changed since he's got the card. Says, I've never had any issues before. Mr. Johnson said the employee left to verify the IDs. Soon after she returned, and he and his granddaughter went to retrieve their cards. 2 police officers arrived. Yeah. And they handcuffed Mr. Johnson and his young granddaughter. The granddaughter was crying, really upset. About 45 minutes after questioning on the street outside the bank, both were released. We had really prove who we were, he says, and where we came from. They thought our status cards were fake. Vancouver police said in a statement they had been called to investigate a fraud in progress, but confirmed the identity of Mr. Johnson and his granddaughter. We recognize that this entire situation has been upsetting and distressing for the 2 individuals. You know what? They are good for them because you know what they are doing? They are now considering filing a lawsuit through Canada's Human Rights Tribunal. Good for them. BMO is a horrible bank. Horrible bank. We're not going for sponsors from them anyways. All right? I've never used them. Not a fan. Everyone's change in 2020 is going to be a little bit battier. The United States Mint has revealed the latest design that will appear on quarters this year as a part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program was launched in 2010. These quarters will feature the Samoan fruit bat in honor of the National Park of American Samoa. The design features a mother fruit bat hanging upside down as her cub peers out from her wings, evoking the remarkable care and energy that this species puts into their offspring, says the Mint. Fruit bats are much different than the small cave dwellers that usually come to mind at the word bat. The animals are active both during the day and night and have a wingspan of up to 3 feet, according to the National Park Services. 3 species occupy the National Park of American Samoa, 2 that are large and 1 that is smaller and eats insects. The design is intended to promote awareness to the species' threatened status due to habitat loss and commercial hunting, the Mint said. The National Park of American Samoa is the only park in the United States that is home to the Samoan fruit bat. The 25-cent piece will be inscribed with the words National Park American Samoa 2020, as well as a traditional motto of the United States, E Pluribus Unum. I hope I said that right, America. I apologize if I screwed that up, which appears on all U.S. coins and is Latin for out of many, one. The new quarters will be released on February 3rd. Here's a weird one. Officials in Uganda say customs officers seized banned cosmetics that have been disguised as a baby for an alleged smuggling attempt. The Uganda Revenue Authority tweeted out photos showing a woman carrying what appears to be a child on her back. The tweet said that the baby turned out to be a set of pajamas filled with banned cosmetics. The woman had attempted to bring the package into Uganda from the Democratic Republic of the Congo on a bus. URA spokesperson Ian Rumanyika says the disguised cosmetics are banned in Uganda due to containing hydroquinone and mercury. Okay, who's putting mercury on their faces? Who does that? Firefighters in Las Vegas share photos of an unusual discovery in a resident's backyard, a potentially dangerous homemade gas station. Las Vegas Fire and Rescue shared images showing a pair of large fuel tanks at a gas pump that was found in the backyard of a home. The post said firefighters, police, and code enforcement officers responded to the location. They are not saying whether it's from Marty on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. No, he's still innocent on this one. But they did go on to say this is not only illegal in the city, it is a hazard to the neighbors and first responders who may respond there for an emergency like a fire. Citations are possible and certainly any cost for abatement for any environmental impacts it caused, the department said. The Post said the hose appeared long enough for curbside fill-ups. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said the investigation is ongoing. Gas station. Wonder how much he's saving. What's he charging? I want to know this. What's he charging a gallon? Marty, find out for us. A Florida man accused of trying to extort a Daytona car dealer for money and a new car has been charged with multiple felonies after allegedly posing as a federal prosecutor in an attempt to get charges against them dropped. Originally, Christian Moscow was charged with trying to extort $50,000 and a car from Glenn Ritchie, owner of a branch of John Hall Chevrolet, a franchise car dealership. Moscow claimed he obtained the dealership's 2002 to 2004 customer sales information in May. If the dealership did not pay Moscow the money, he allegedly said in an email sent to the dealership that he would promptly publish to all local media the fact that John Hall Chevrolet has allowed their customers' private identity information to be tossed to the curb per se. This, I believe, would devastate Mr. Ritchie's future business and, of course, expose Mr. Ritchie to a class action lawsuit that would certainly cost him millions of dollars. This information was believed to include customers' birth dates, social security numbers. Moscow later allegedly told the dealership he'd be willing to sign a non-disclosure agreement and turn over the documents in exchange for the money and a car. Ritchie's assistant told Moscow to bring the documents to an attorney's office where the trade would be made, but Ritchie had turned over the emails to the local police. Moscow was intercepted by officers at the attorney's office. He had 2 cardboard boxes filled with the sale orders, when he was arrested. He told officers that he found the boxes on a street corner, but Ritchie believed they'd been stolen. Later, he admitted to making the threats via his email address. Moscow was charged with burglary, petty theft, and extortion. He then reportedly tried to avoid incarceration by posing as 2 federal prosecutors. He is believed to have stolen the names of 2 assistant state attorneys, Danielle Fields and Andrew Urbanak, and their Florida bar ID numbers, and then established an email account in Urbanak's name. Oh, this guy's good. The fake email account was then used to file 2 announcement of no information motions under the prosecutor's names through the city's e-filing portal. Moscow allegedly used the filing made in another person's case and edited it to match the extortion case. Such a motion would result in the charges against him being dropped. There was just one problem with the motion Moscow had filed. The state had already made an announcement of information by filing charges against him. Had he filed a Noel Prosi, the charges would have been dropped. This caught the eye of a suspicious clerk at the court office who then notified officials. Moscow's attorneys also noted, this guy's brilliant, but he's in jail. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on Twitter and Facebook and then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Thanks, Marty, for the clown on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. What do you think attracts monsters to people? On Twitter, Bigfoot says, well, for me, it's mainly personality, but I want someone with a real career, too, not just a job. Oh, isn't that nice? Judith, seek and you shall find, not always attracted to just nosing around in someone's territory, and eventually they will find you. Juju Wren, fear and perhaps courage, vulnerability, just like any predaceous behavior found in known creatures, I suspect anyways. And Mr. Physics, I've seen the films. We are clearly a food source. Oh, that's nice. Very, very nice. All right. Chris, sexy hair. I agree, Chris. Totally agree. Caden, I honestly believe it's the vibrations an individual puts out. If a person has a very high vibrational field, it may seem as a threat or attack. It may latch on to a low vibrating person because they're already weak and easy to pick on. Another Chris, animal magnetism. David, negative vibes, no confidence in oneself, evil thoughts towards one another. David, their taste. Kent, fear. James, intentions. Kelly, personal demon monsters or cryptic monsters. Monsters in general. Why do we got to be so specific? Answer the question. Landon, self-loathing. You know, I wish I had more. I have a few more, but people not really understanding that we read these on the air. Tim, curiosity, just like us to them. Diana, I think it could be several things. Here we go. We got a good one here. Person has unresolved wounds that will keep attracting the same energy until the deal with the issue, or karmic relationships for learning and healing opportunity. And sometimes bad crap just happens, regardless of what vibration or mindset you're in. Oh, isn't that true? Isn't that true? Gail, even if you hate clowns, when you go to the circus, you're likely to see one. Same for monsters. You go to their territory, chances are you will run into one. But with monsters, it can be an accidental encounter, or it can be the result of thoughts you are transmitting. You are transmitting electrical signals. Monster is receiving. Voila! Kismet. Teresa, luck. Colleen, I think the only monsters are people. Marty, according to the movies, usually brunettes that can scream. Donna, low vibrations. Everyone and everything has a vibrational energy. Just like sharks pick up on the vibrations of an injured fish, a dark or negative energy can pick up the person's dark or negative energy as well. Kelly, I tried to find a way to blame aliens. However, I think they are just smelling the snacks everyone is carrying with them. Yes, I'm going with snacks. And that's where we'll wrap it up today on The Thought of the Day. We'll do it all again tomorrow on Facebook and Twitter. So make sure you extend your answer so we can read it on the air if you don't mind, please. And thank you. Thank you, Captain Shirk, for wonderful news. Everything can be found on our website, spacedoutradio.com, under the SOR Newswire. And to Varla Ventura, who come on in once again, first time of 2020. Gosh, she's good. She is real good. You know, we have a few of her books on our We Read the Night section on our website. If you want to go check them on out, I highly suggest you do. She'll be back on March 5th. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. No, I am not vegan, Mr. Haddock. No veganism here. Thank you to everybody chatting in at home, at work, in your cars, in our chat rooms, on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, LGAB, Revolution Radio, and can't forget all you weirdos in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. I know you're out there somewhere. Oh, who doesn't sing that now? I want to say a big thank you for tuning us in, talking monsters with us tonight, because together, my friends,
make a mistake, we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a great night, everybody. We round off the week with Life After Death. Stephen Holly Martin will be with us tomorrow night. Let's have a good one. Finish up strong. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you. Good night.